What's up guys? My name is Lance and today we are building another $300 gaming PC right now in mid-2026. So let's get into it. So as you guys know, with AI driving the RAM and SSD prices through the roof, right now I would say it's not the best time to build a gaming PC. But if you're really desperate and you really want to jump into gaming, then you've come to the right place. So you got to do a lot of deal hunting, like, go on Facebook Marketplace or Kijiji or even eBay or AliExpress, and you'll get some pretty good deals. So that's why we're using both new and used parts. Oh, before we get into it, so that $300 gaming PC that I built in early 2026, that video, I would say, is not really applicable anymore in mid-2026. So that PC would probably be around $400 to $450 now. And the difference is that we're using an AM4 platform from AMD instead of an Intel Xeon CPU from AliExpress. Alright, so for the motherboard, I chose, in this white box actually, we are going with the AsRock B450M Fatality K4.
On eBay, I got this for around $62 US, and this motherboard features two PCIe 3.0 headers, as well as M.2 Gen 3 support, and it has a great upgrade path as it supports Ryzen 5000 CPUs.
And now for the power supply. So for the power supply, we decided to go with a 500 watt unit from Thermaltake.
This power supply costed me $50 brand new, and it's the best power supply you can get at this price point. I used this in a few builds in the past, and it served me quite well, and 500 watts should be more than enough for what we need.
And for RAM, which, guys, you're gonna have to do a lot of deal hunting on Facebook Marketplace to get this, but I managed to get a 16GB kit, 2666 megahertz, for only $58 US. Now, 2666 megahertz is not that great for AM4, but let me explain why I chose this.
I chose 2666 megahertz because at the time, this was the only available option in my area. It was a lot cheaper going on Facebook Marketplace than buying on eBay because 3200 megahertz costed me around $15 more. And as we're trying to keep this build around $300, I had settled for less. But don't do what I did. I would definitely not recommend going for 2666 megahertz for an AMD build. Spend the extra $15 and just be done with it. Don't do what I did.
For the SSD, which you'll have to do a lot of deal hunting as well, I got this on eBay for only $37.
So the SSD in question is a Micron M500, which has a size of 480 gigabytes, and it is a SATA SSD that you can plug into an M.2 port that supports it, featuring speeds up to 6 gigabits per second.
For the CPU, I actually got this one on Facebook Marketplace for only $15, and we're taking it all the way back to 2017. This is the Ryzen 5 1600. This has 6 cores and 12 threads and should get the job done in a lot of the games we're going to test. Now, first generation Ryzen, I would not recommend these days, but if you get it at a really cheap price, like $15, this is actually a steal of a deal. It can still play a lot of AAA games out there too. Now, this PC is mainly for esports gaming, but if you want to play some AAA gaming, then 1600 can definitely get it done. You just have to manage your expectations. For the case, I also got this used on Facebook Marketplace. I got this AZZA Golem case for only $22.
This case is from 2018, and it actually has a few damages with dent and bent on the frame, but for the most part, all our parts should still sit pretty nicely on this case. The seller sent it to me with 2 front red LED fans, as well as one normal 120mm fan at the back. On top of that, I also decided to buy this $3 LED strip from Dollarama just to add RGB to our PC.
And lastly, for the part that you've all been waiting for, the graphics card. This is a GTX 1660 Ti, and I got this for around $75 US. The
1660 Ti or even the 1660 Super is definitely the best GPU you can buy at this price point. However, as it is one of the last GTX cards to be ever released, it cannot play games that require ray tracing, so just keep that in mind. But this thing is definitely a beast when it comes to esports gaming.
Alright, now that we're finished with our parts, let's get into the building montage. Alright guys, so the first game we'll be testing is Black Myth Wukong. And going over the settings, we are using quality TSR, and we are using the medium settings preset. So we're gonna run over the benchmarks. Right now in Black Myth Wukong, we're actually getting a pretty decent frame rate around the 50s and 60s. So yeah, this is definitely playable, and you should have a pretty good experience in this game. So also, I forgot to mention, since this comes with a remote control, you can cycle through different colors if you want to. If you want pink, you can do pink. If you want blue, green, red, or even a toggle switch to cycle through different colors. Now, the red fans do stick out like a sore thumb, but if you want to change those for RGB fans, even the rear fan right there, then you have the option to do so. I also forgot to mention that I was able to overclock the Ryzen 5 to 3.7 gigahertz, so you should see slightly higher frame rates. Alright, so our average frame rate is 53 and our minimum is 41, so this is definitely a playable experience and you can have a pretty fun time in Black Myth Wukong. So on to the next game. Alright guys, so the next game we'll be testing is Alan Wake 2, and this is the most demanding game we'll be testing actually. We are using quality FSR, using the low preset. Overall, we are sitting around 40 FPS, so this is definitely playable. You just have to manage your expectations because again, this PC is an esports machine. Overall, our average frame rate is 48, our 1% low is 34, and our 0.1% low is 30, so definitely a playable experience. Okay, so now for a couple of lighter esports titles, we have Counter-Strike 2. So we're using mostly low settings, so I decided to keep some things on high, textures and texture filtering. But as you can see with our frame rate, we're sitting around 100 FPS. So if you have a 144 Hz monitor like I do, then you can definitely enjoy this game just fine. Okay, so our average frame rate is 167 and our minimum frame rate is 86. So this is definitely a competitive experience. Alright, so the last game we'll be testing is Marvel Rivals. We are running FSR quality, and I decided to enable low latency mode, and we are pretty much using the lowest settings. The one thing to keep in mind is that this is an Unreal Engine 5 game, so you should expect to see some stutters here and there because Unreal Engine 5 games generally tend to not be very well optimized. And as you can see with our GPU usage, we are being CPU bottlenecked. So this is a first-gen Ryzen chip. So this is a Ryzen 5 1600 all the way back in 2017. But it's still holding itself pretty well. And as you can see, we're getting around... Sorry, that was a bit loud. Let me just turn down the volume. We are getting around 60 FPS. So this is definitely a playable experience. Although I would recommend this more for casual play, not really for competitive play. But as you can see, if it can handle Marvel Rivals, then it can definitely handle other esports games such as Overwatch, Fortnite. Alright, so now that we've seen the benchmarks, this system held itself pretty well for $300 US. Our Ryzen 5 1600, it was definitely a CPU bottleneck, don't get me wrong. But the fact that it can still pull 60 FPS is genuinely insane to me. This CPU is 9 years old. My biggest gripe, however, is with RAM. So I get it, RAM is expensive right now, and AI is definitely messing up the RAM market, but 2666 megahertz was definitely a bottleneck in our system. We could have seen higher frame rates if we used 3200 megahertz. Spend the extra $20 on 3200 megahertz RAM and be done with it. Trust me, you'll see higher frame rates. And as for our GTX 1660 Ti, it also surprised me in a lot of the games we tested. I did not expect to get around 50 to 60 FPS in the most demanding game, which is Alan Wake 2. And I would say this system is a pretty good deal. It is definitely better than going with an RX 580, because if we went with that, we would get much lower frame rates, because the RX 580, let's be honest guys, it's old at this point. Now, my favorite thing about this system is actually with upgradability. So, thanks to the B450 motherboard, this motherboard supports up to Ryzen 5000 series. So, if you want to upgrade to, let's say, a Ryzen 5 3600 or the 5800X 3D, you have the option to do so, although I would upgrade the power supply if you want to get a better GPU. As for the looks of the system, you have a controller where you can cycle through different colors, like I mentioned earlier. So would I build this system for $300? yeah, like, this system held itself pretty well. Now, one thing I would change, like I said earlier, is the RAM, but other than that, like, the system held itself pretty well. For $300, this system is hard to beat, especially with upgradability. Anyways, that does it for this video. What are your thoughts on this PC? Let me know in the comment section below, and don't forget to subscribe, as we're closing in at 500 subscribers. So thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a like if you like this video, and leave a dislike if you hate this video, and subscribe for more content just like this, and I'll see you in the next video.